But the prosecution is rested. So did the attorneys prove their case? With me to help sort this out is criminal defense attorney Joseph DiBenedetto and in-session law enforcement contributor Mike Brooks. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you, Chrissy.
All righty. Joseph, let me pose the question to you first. I mean, there's no forensic evidence in this case that ties the defendant to those calcium pills that were laced with cyanide that have been determined to have killed this victim. Did the defense prove its case?
Well,
the prosecution.
I have to tell you, after 53 witnesses, it's very, very clear there's an abundance of evidence here. Yes, it is a circumstantial case, but unfortunately at this point, there's enough for the judge to rely on here. The people have submitted enough evidence to satisfy each and every element of the offense. So the defense's motion, it's not surprising that the judge shot it down real quick.
Mike Brooks, what do you say? And I'm wondering, who do you think was the best witness for the prosecution?
There were a lot of witnesses, I think. Yeah. You know, but I think yesterday one of the best questions was, would it have gone this far had he have not run to Lebanon? But I think, yes, the prosecution has proved their case.
How so?
Oh, just like Joey said, I think all the elements with the 53 witnesses, yes, it's circumstantial. There's not hardly any, forensic evidence, if you will. But Michelle Madeline Stevens, the woman who we saw, the witness that had her face pixelated so we couldn't see what she looked like, I tell you, she was damaging, along with the other parade of women that we saw during this, along with his brothers, the people that helped him flee. I tell you, there's just so many witnesses that were just so damning for Mr. Yisa, for Dr. Yisa. I tell you, I think they made their case.
I want to bring some sound in here because I think one of the most riveting pieces of testimony came from the defendant's brother, Faraz. Let's hear from him here real quick and see what he had to say about helping, basically, as he admitted, helping his brother hide.
While all that's happening, I mean, you were certainly well aware that what you were doing was criminal.
Yes.
But you did it anyway.
Yes.
And why is that?
Because he's my brother. I would have did anything for him.
Got a little emotional there. Actually, that whole testimony got a little emotional for Faraz. But at the end of the day, jurors might look at this and think, well, yes, this is his brother and he'd do anything for him, but his testimony is here in exchange for the fact that he's going to get out of a charge of obstruction himself. So, Joseph, tell me, is he credible?
Well, is he credible? Does he have a reason to be testifying? Yes, but we can't look at his testimony in a vacuum. We have to look at everything that's been put forth so far on this case. And when you combine, the fact that he fled shortly after being interviewed, along with, in my opinion, what was the most damaging piece of testimony from Michelle, his mistress, that essentially he had her watching his children shortly after his wife's death. To me, that's damaging. That's very, very difficult to overcome. You're asking a lot from a jury, and more importantly, the defense has put on this defense that he's a playboy, and that type of evidence really knocks the legs out.
Right, but let's talk. I mean, at the end of the day, being an unfaithful, callous guy does not equate to being a murderer. I do want to play some sound, too.
But he left his kids. Would you leave your kids for all those years?
I'm not talking about the fleeing. I'm talking about the mistress part. And we have some sound from one of the mistresses, the very witness that the mistress that the defense is trying to pin this whole crime on.
Oh, yeah.
Margarita Montanez. Listen to what she had to say about her opinion of Mr. Issa.
How do you feel about the defendant?
I despise him.
Did you love him?
No, I never loved him. No.
Did he ever tell you that he loved you?
No.
I'm curious as to whether she's credible, because normally you don't despise somebody that you have no feelings for. Yes?
Well, and she's known this guy since, what, 1994, and it was kept going back and forth. Oh, yeah. And then after she was married, she went back. I found, as I said yesterday, I found her 95% credible. But I don't think she was totally forthcoming. She had planned on what she was going to testify to. Her husband's sitting there. We saw during one of the breaks her go back to her husband. How uncomfortable was it for him to be in that courtroom? And you know what, though, Christy? Okay, she knew what she was going to testify to. There weren't going to be any surprises. They went through the script, and she testified exactly. But if you look at her eye movement and some of the other things, as a former investigator, if I was sitting there talking to her, no, I didn't believe everything she said. 95% of it, but she left a lot out.
All righty. And I just real quickly, Joseph, if you could sit down with the defense, what would you tell them you think they have to do to try to clear their client at this point?
Well, it's very, very tough. This is a tough case. Maybe at this point, maybe it's a good idea to start discussing a plea deal. Maybe that's in the cards. But in terms of discrediting witnesses, they've done a hell of a job. You know, you're stuck with the facts of the case, and you can only do what you can with the facts that you're dealt with. And they fought very, very hard for this client, and they've done a very, very good job. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's not good enough.
All righty, Joseph DiBenedetto and Mike Brooks, thank you, gentlemen, so much for your insights. It's good to have you here with us.
Thanks, Christy.
Thank you.
Absolutely.